Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Nicole Halland, and she's going to talk about how she uses intuition in her multiple podcasts that she hosts, and how she uses it in public speaking and in sales calls and also in hiring. So a lot of places use it in your business, Nicole. And just in case you haven't met her, she is the host of the Business Building Rockstars show and Get Guest Ready. And she is an expert at helping people be their best selves when they do interviews on podcasts, and so they can spread their influence and impact throughout the world. So welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Michael. Super excited to be here with you.
Yes. And so you do a lot of podcasting and you help other people be good at podcasting. Tell us about how you use your intuition in your podcasts.
Yeah, so when I got into podcasting, I learned like how to structure. I learned that you should have a good structure, and I tried that on for a while. And what I was finding was, for me, I felt like I was not allowing my intuition to come in as much, and so the conversations were more. I would have questions or an outline, and so I would go to the questions, and so I felt like things were disjointed for me when I really just wanted to talk with people. I love connecting. I love really getting to know people deeply. And so after, I don't know, it was probably a few months. I probably had already recorded like, 18 to 20, well, yeah, probably about 18, 20. When I started podcasting, I was doing 3 interviews a day. When I really,
oh my God,
no, sorry, not a day. I was releasing 3 interviews a week.
oh,
So yeah, but I would record up to 9 a day. So it was a lot of content, and I felt like, what if I just could just talk with these people a little bit longer? And so after a few months, I started loosening up my structure, and now I really just have conversations, just conversations with people. I don't know where it's going to go. Also, when I say yes to guests now, I used to say yes with a different criteria. Now I'm really intentional about, is this going to feel good? Are we going to have a great conversation? Is it going to be a great fit? And so, yeah, just allowing myself to bring in more intuition into all aspects of who is on my show, what we talk about, and the experience overall, and really feeling into what my audience wants to know as well. That's how I've adjusted to doing podcast interviews.
Well, that's great ideas there for people who maybe do podcasts, or maybe they have other ways they interview people or talk to people that listen to your intuition, which kind of brings up the question, how do you get your intuition? Do you hear it, or it comes to you as a knowing, or because everyone seems to have a different way that...
Yeah, I love that you're asking that, because it's something that it's always been there. I think any of us who consider ourselves intuitives, we've always had it. And when I was young, I would like as far as I can remember childhood, I would have this knowing, and I couldn't believe it. I would always think, well, that doesn't make any sense because I can't know that. And if I talked about it, my father would say something like, "Oh, you saw that on television," or something. And I'd go, "Really? Oh, okay." And he would say, you're talking, like, you're bringing into your life these things that happen on TV. Like, you're confused. I'm like, really? Okay. And it was an experience I had. So I still had the feeling, I still had the knowing, like, and sometimes it was just always normal. It was just always normal stuff. But sometimes it was kind of morbid, just because that was my life. My little brother had cancer. He got diagnosed when I was almost 12. And so we spent a lot of time involved with an organization called Special Love Incorporated out of Winchester, Virginia, where they support children and families that are going through childhood cancer. And they have, nowadays, they actually have, HIV and other things as well that they support. I think diabetes, but it was always, originally it was a cancer camp. And so I made this great friend there. I had made a lot of friends that passed, but I had this wonderful friend, Brandon, who actually I had known years before as a child. We went to summer camp together, and I saw him at Camp Fantastic, and he'd lost a leg. So, but we lived in Columbia, Maryland. So we were, we're right down the street. So once we were reconnected, we would play and we would hang out. I mean, I guess at that point in my life, we weren't playing so much. I was in middle school, but we became really, really great friends again. And it was the summer before 10th grade. I hadn't talked to him in a couple weeks maybe, and I called him because, I had a dream. I had a knowing, right? I woke up and I went, oh my gosh, this isn't real. This isn't possible. Like, Brandon was fine as far as I knew. And I woke up knowing Brandon had passed, and I was like, that's just logically, it doesn't make any sense. It's not possible. So I called his house, and his mother answered, and I asked to speak to him, and it was like a very, she told me, he's not here, he's died. I'm like, what? That's not possible. And I really argued that, and because I knew it, but then I'm like, how did I know it? And that was a time where I decided to turn it off. And it was many, 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 many years, probably 20, 25 years, that I absolutely refused anytime I had a knowing to trust it, to believe it, to acknowledge it even. I mean, things like, driving, you're driving and it's like, oh, don't go that way. And I would go that way just because I'm like, why would I think not to go that way? So, yeah, so it's been, it was in the early 2000s, I started acknowledging that I knew things that I couldn't explain, but then also kind of shut it off for a few years again. And now just in the past few years, I've really been embracing it and acknowledging and going, wait a minute, no, I do know things, and it's not me, it's something higher, and it's intuition. And so, yeah, there's my story about that.
Wow. Well, that sounds so powerful. And I think so many of us, if we go back to our childhoods, we were more intuitive, and then often for various reasons we shut down, either because teachers or parents dismissed it, like your father did, or you had this incredible experience where you knew someone had died before you'd been told the news. And I'm almost wondering, do you think you thought you'd caused his death and therefore intuition was dangerous? Or
No, not at all.
No.
I guess one way I could describe it is I see things before they happen, but they're not, it's not that I'm like seeing a picture of them. It is that knowing. It's not hearing. I don't have the auditory sense.
Precognizance, I think, is the technical word, right?
Yeah, like I've always had that, even if I didn't pay attention to it. And now it's really cool because this is one of the things that my clients love working with me. My coaching clients, like they, I can't like sell this in a way that it's like, oh, I know things, that's not why people come to me. It's because of the marketing, or it's because of the business building that they're looking to take their business to the next level. But when they work with me one-on-one, even in a small group setting, that's one thing my clients are always like, wait, what? Because I'll hear them, and I know what they're going to say, and I know what would be the best in the situation sometimes. So even when we're working on, which shows to get on, and how to get the attention of a really big host that's like their dream, I just know what to tell them. I know what to tell them to put into the email. I know what for them to say in order to make a connection, and then I give that to them, and then they do it, and they're like, oh my gosh. So it's so much fun playing with intuition in this way, where I can serve and support my clients. And you mentioned we're going to talk about how I'm using intuition to bring those clients in. I've got really clear on I only want people who totally love and adore me and appreciate all of my gifts holistically, appreciate that I have that intuition. They're not coming to me because of it, but they're allowing me to be completely me without restriction, and they can't get enough of it. And I am only attracting people who I absolutely adore, and I'm so behind what they're doing and believe in them so much, and I can tap in to their higher power to where it's just magical. So that's been a lot of fun too. Once I actually realized this is a gift, and not only is it something I have to just say it's a gift I can accept. It's like, wait a minute, it's a gift I can play with. This is super fun.
Yes, it sounds like a secret path to be a better entrepreneur to me.
I think so. I mean, I think it's definitely like a secret power, because it's what I try and tell my clients too, the ones who, any gifts, we all have gifts. Everybody has gifts. And it's like, even though you may have a hook or an anchor or something that you're doing that people have a preconceived notion about. For example, I do a full service booking for podcast guests. So people think they know what it is I do, but they have no idea. Like, it's something that they can wrap their head around. But once we work together, then they get the magic. And I think we all, not I think, I know we all have that. So it's when you can identify like what brings people in, what's that thing that you're excellent at, in layman's terms. Once you actually get working with people, like, really allow yourself to flow, allow yourself to be yourself, rather than sticking to something that other people tell you should do. And I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Well, speaking of flow, you do public speaking and you're about to fly off to give a speech somewhere.
I
But you said you used to be afraid of public speaking, but you aren't anymore. Tell us, and I know a lot of people listening have fear of public speaking. How do you overcome that using flow and intuition?
So I just wanted to just define something a little bit, because I'm not afraid of public speaking. I've never been afraid of public speaking.
Mm.
I've always been a leader, I guess. And so when I was younger, I just spoke whatever, and it felt good, and people got inspired, and that was great. As I've started my business now, this iteration, so I was a correctional officer for a number of years. I quit my job and I went into business for myself. Well, now I have purple hair and I wear t-shirts and jeans. And years ago, I wore suits, and I just I carried myself in a different way. It wasn't inauthentic, it was just different. Well, now, as I came out of corrections, I wasn't in the business arena for 10 years. And I don't look the part anymore, if you will. So I had anxiety around, now I'm going and if I can speak, and people ask me to come speak, and I think, oh well, what do they want? Because I don't even know. And so that's where that came from. It was not necessarily fear, but it was like I would find myself feeling really anxious about, am I going to say the right thing? And it was just me forgetting that people are asking me to be a speaker because of who I am, rather than what I can teach them, or in what format. And so I would spend hours and hours and hours creating PowerPoints and just be completely overwhelmed, and it would just turn me off to speaking, and I would say no. Even webinars, feel so much anxiety around, I have to prepare, and you follow the script. And I had a client actually say something to me. Well, there's been a few things that have happened. One, I was at a conference in 2016 called Podcast Movement, and Kevin Smith, the writer, director, podcaster, Kevin Smith, he did the keynote. He did one of the keynotes, the main keynote, and I was in there, and he just showed up and flowed. He just talked. He just showed up on the stage, this huge event with like 1,500 attendees there to listen to him. He showed up in his hockey jersey, as he always does. He just talked. He talked his language. He swore. Some people didn't like that. Oh well. He just completely showed up as him, and I was like, that was, for me, wasn't necessarily what he was saying, it was how he was saying and that he was saying that really inspired me. And I went, maybe it doesn't have to be so difficult. Maybe I can just show up and be me. But then the other side of me, I get that conflict with, but wait a minute, if somebody's asking me, like, what are their expectations? I don't want to let them down, and so on. So it's been, for probably about a year, I went back and forth about that. And I have an amazing client, and she said she's part of a very big networking group that has the founders of big companies in it, and they always are having they have regular speakers come in and kind of workshop things or talk about things. She said, you have to come. It's a very challenging process to get approved to come and speak to our group. But we have chapters all over the US. There's also chapters in Canada, and you would be perfect. People need to know about podcast guesting, and the way you teach it is so dynamic, and we need you. And I went, oh my goodness, like, what does that mean? And I looked into this organization, and I was like, wait a minute, these are the founders of like really big companies. I'm imagining in my mind, like walking into a boardroom, feeling really small. I'm like, no, I can't do that. And she said, no, it's not like that. And you're perfect. And I want you to do this. And so I said, well, thank you. Appreciate it. With all due respect, I'm certainly not feeling confident right now. So I'm going to just sleep on this if you don't mind. And so she said, of course, take your time, but it's not a big deal. And I was like, in my head, it was still a big deal. So I sat with that, and I'd done some internal work, and then I went back to her and I said, all right, well, if the offer is still on the table, I'd be honored. I don't really still know what this entails. I will tell you, I'm intimidated. But what I do know is if I can just show up and be me, it's fine. But if I have to prepare a PowerPoint and stick to the point, so she's like, oh my gosh, the people who prepare PowerPoints and stick to the points, they're so boring. We all own big companies. We show up in jeans and, comfy clothes, and we're just real people. And so we don't want to be talked to like we're in a board meeting. We want that fun energy that you bring. And I was like, okay, cool. So now, just again, another recognition and acknowledgement that it's okay to do it my way. This event that I'm going to speak at, I'm flying out just in a little bit for
23 minutes.
An hour and 23.
Oh, okay. You allowed a gap between our interview and flying. That's wise.
I figure food and just double checking the cats are good while I go. But I was speaking with the organizer, and I hadn't gotten anything from him, and I said, listen, I need to know what you want me to present, because I want to know, because I don't have a talk. I said, I can talk on any of these things, but I'd like to be prepared. He said, Nicole, I asked you to do this because I know you're the right person. He said, listen, I've run, I don't know, for 6 years. I've run like however many of these and other live events, and I'll tell you, I know my stuff. And so when I don't prepare, I show up, I feel the energy of the room, I look at who is there, I look at my list of attendees, what their businesses are, what their needs are. And then the night before, I really sit down and do an outline. So each day of the event, it's the night before that I'm like, what do these people need? What do they want? And I allow my intuition to just flow and serve me, and it's been serving me for years. So don't worry. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what everything's been pointing to. So I'm just like, I feel so fortunate, so blessed that he invited me to be a part of his program, and that this is how he runs his business, and he does events all the time. And I just feel like, wow, what a gift.
That is a gift. So for people listening who maybe haven't felt the energy of a room using their intuition, how could they do that? How do you feel the energy of a room?
Well, I am still learning. When I've gone to things in the past as an attendee and I've not felt secure, I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm very much an introvert, and so
really?
And so
Me too.
So I pick up a lot of, like, I get the noise and the lots of things going
Mm.
on, and I get overwhelmed easily, or I have been historically, right? So that's something that I've worked on. It's different, I think, when you're speaking. It's kind of like when I was young, I was a bartender. And so I never really enjoyed going out to nightclubs. I never enjoyed being in the crowds, but I loved being behind the bar because I had like my space and I was there to entertain and to serve. And like, I had a blast. I loved working. It was so much fun. But going out as a like somebody just going to a pub, I hated it. It was never my thing. And I think it's the same.
And
I think
I think people who tend bar don't always get respect. And really, you've got to like pick up on people's subtle cues when you do that job.
yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
because you can have people are drinking, they could get violent, they could get dramatic. You need to pick up on stuff and guide the situation, you know, or be
Yeah,
aware
definitely.
quickly.
And I loved working at nightclubs. I love dancing. I love like bringing the party and helping people have fun. For me, like life, I think is all about helping people be happy. And it's manifested in that way. It's manifested in what I do now. And so I think, this is a really interesting conversation because I've never really thought about it like this before. Um, but yeah, so it's just different now. I go in and recognizing I'm part of the program. I'm part of I have the opportunity to bring people into a higher awareness of what I know that can serve them, that can support them. And so, it's still new for me actually being able to not go in thinking I have to hit these talking points, but to go in and say, I'm going to listen really intently. And what's fun with this one is I'm speaking on day 3. So it's a 3-day event. I'm in the middle of the last day. So I'm really excited about that opportunity because I will get to go in and get a feel for the people and what their desires are, what their needs are. And then I like being workshoppy, opposed to speaking at people. And so yeah,
Mm.
actually, even a couple weeks ago, I was at Podcast Movement for this year, 2017, and I was asked to introduce a couple of the speakers to the stage, and I just went with the flow. Like the first one I did,
Hmm.
there was nobody in the room, so I was like, oh no, hold on a second, and so I went out into the hallway. I'm like, hey, and I just started pulling people in, and so the energy when I got in there was so upbeat, and all these people were coming in because I connected, and so as I walked in and closed the door, I was just walking down the aisle up to the stage talking to them because I'd already connected with them and just brought
Hmm.
the energy. Honestly, I didn't even know the people that were speaking. I had a canned bio. I don't like reading those anyhow. So I
No,
was like, I
I
just
like to
got
make them up myself.
yeah, make it up as you go. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
the second guy also, it was like 9 a.m. on the last day where I'd been up to like 4 a.m. the night before, just connecting with people, and so I went up there with a Starbucks and just started shooting the shit with the people in the audience and got them feeling comfortable and connected them with the speaker, and then sat down. So yeah, I guess thank you for allowing me to process this live on the air. Um, it's, I think the flow is just being true to who you are and not getting in your head and worrying, at least for me, not getting in my head and worrying about what are people going to think, what do they want from me, and remembering that I've already made the decision with clients, for example, not to take on people who have something they want from me, but rather to take on people and to attract people who just love me up no matter what. And so going into a room feeling that same way, I can repel without knowing the people who don't care for me.
Oh, that's a great secret power you have there, repelling the ones who don't want to get the message. And that brings us to how you do intuitive sales, because the ability to attract ideal clients is a great skill to have. So tell us about how you do that, Nicole.
I, that it's all intuitive and it's all energetic, and it happens way before I even connect with people. Just the more I practice focusing on what I want and who I want, like the qualities and characteristics of the people that I want, not what I don't want. And so I work with a lot of clients who will say, well, I don't like this and I don't like that and I don't want this and I don't want that. And it's like, okay, great. So what do you want? So let's focus on what you do want and bring more of that in. And then they'll say things like, okay, well, that's great, I get what I want, but then this is going to happen. I know it because it's always happened. It's like, okay, cool, so that's happened historically, and are you ready for it to not happen anymore? Let's focus on what could happen instead. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And it's a process. I mean, I do it to myself, and before we hit record, I told you, like, I've just gone through this even with hiring. I went, wait a minute, why am I not doing this? I'm still internally going, but I know this is what's going to happen. I'm like, no, Nicole,
Oh,
self-talk. It's not going to happen that way. It doesn't have to happen that way. You know this. So why do you keep expecting the bottom to fall out? So when it comes to sales, I always was saying, like, I'm not a good salesperson. I'm a great marketer. I'm a great relationship person, but I'm not a good salesperson.
mm,
And what I've come to realize, because I've had a lot of sales coaching, and I've got all the scripts and I know all the tactics, and what I find is, so far none of that works for me, and I feel inauthentic when I use any sales strategies. But what I recognized is, if I'm only talking to the people who love me and can't wait to work with me, it doesn't matter what I say.
mm,
Nothing matters. The money doesn't matter. What Whether I say the right thing or the wrong thing, it's all the right thing if it's the right person. In fact, we're recording in September, and I'm producing my annual summit, and traveling, and just a lot of things are on my plate. I'm in a big growth and transition period, and I'm enjoying the journey. There's a lot of challenges, though, in terms of giving other people what they want, because I have to focus. In. There's so many opportunities, and I love this part of the journey. At the same time, um, I recognized that one of the things that I had to say no to, and this was, gosh, at the end of July, beginning of August, I can't take on any more clients. I just can't. And I will be able to once I have my infrastructure in place and I have my things handled. But when I work with, when I say clients, I mean booking clients. When I work with people, I go above and beyond. I treat their business like it was my own. And so I knew I can't spread myself any thinner. And so I had met with a business owner back in June, maybe May, June, and they were preparing for their live event. They had a lot on the go. They were writing a book, all this stuff, right? And they said, okay, well, we want to work with you, but not until we're done. Okay, no problem. Um, but like, my life goes on too, right? And so I got an email about a week ago from her saying, okay, our live event is done. We're like coming down. We're excited. We can't wait to work with you. Let's get us booked on podcasts. What are the dates? Right, for onboarding? I said, well, thank you. I am so glad your things went well. I'm so glad you're ready to go. My calendar right now, the soonest that I can get you in for onboarding is beginning of December. Now, again, we're recording right now in September. So this was like beginning of September, she wrote me. And I thought, okay, well, that's that. Well, she just wrote me back actually yesterday. I haven't even read the full email. I just saw it, like, the beginning of it come through my inbox. And it said, actually, that's perfect. That'll work out great for us. So I'm like, great. And with that, like, I'm not attached to, when I have these calls with people, I'm not attached to the outcome. I don't think like, oh, I want the sale, I want the sale. No, it's like, here's what I have to offer. And if they're the right person, they're gonna work to get me to work for them. And I think if I would have heard that before, I probably would have found that to sound a bit arrogant. But where I'm coming from is, I don't believe a place of arrogance. I believe it's coming from a place of knowing that I serve myself best, and I serve my clients best, and I serve my community best by really focusing only on perfect fits. And so this is just one one way of seeing these people. They're not like, well, we need somebody now, so we're going to go with anybody. It's like, okay, that's cool. Like, we'll wait. And so that's just a lot of fun.
Mm. And how do you tell if someone is an ideal client? You said it sounds like you made a list of what qualities you want them to have, but do you go down a checklist, or are you kind of getting an
No.
intuitive feel that, yeah, this is a good fit?
Yeah, it's definitely an intuitive feel, and just having conversations with them. Um, it's that gut check. It's that
Mm.
intuitive feel. Like um, I met with somebody just a few days ago who had been trying to get in touch with me for a long time, and like I was telling you, I've canceled a lot of appointments because of just a lot of stuff going on in my own world. But I didn't cancel this appointment, and I said, "All right, well, let's see." And they have this company that is building, and it's really exciting. Um, but I recognized in the call, like, it's it's just not it's not a fit. They're wonderful people, and I think what they're doing is really neat. But I just got this knowing, again, right? Just being aware of and acknowledging that intuitive message. I just had this knowing as we were talking that they are going to be exhausting. And that is one of
Wow.
the things I don't want. I want
Mm.
people who are going to be easy and fun to work with and
Hmm.
are going to allow me to do my brilliance, and they're going to come along for the ride without pulling me down into chaos. Like, I have no interest in chaos. So I'm like, great people, and I was able to give them um, some resources to help them, and even happy to refer them. But they're like, literally the conversation. I had to go. Time was up, but also I had Amazon at the door. No, not Amazon. I had some like worker to do something at the door, right? I had an appointment, and I said, I gotta go. But they wouldn't let me get off the line without telling them, like, okay, but how can we work with you? We want to hire you. We want to hire you. We want to hire you. And I'm like, and I
Mm.
thank you. And it's not the right time. I'd say it's not a right fit. Here's what I can support you with. Here, if you wanted to have me
Hmm.
come in and do consult with you guys and help you get this organized, that's cool. But you're not the right client for me. And it was hard to say. But I gave him a lot of resources, and then a couple hours later he checked out those resources, and he's like, okay, I understand what you're saying. I do think we will be ready. I understand, and I thank you, and I appreciate it, and we'll be back in touch. I'm like, hey, that's awesome. And maybe there will be a time where it is a good fit, but it's not right now. And I think years ago, and I think what a lot of people go through as well, is like, I mean, it was a big potential contract, and I think a lot of people would go, well, I'll do it anyway, even though it's going to be more work because of the money. And I have like no interest in that.
Mm. Why is that? I think that's a smart thing. I just want you to dig into why you choose your joy over your money.
Well, just because, I mean, the one thing we don't have more of is time, and I don't have any interest in in living a difficult life. I mean, people say,
Mm.
you have to work hard, and I mean, I am a hustler. I work hard, but it's not hard work. It's stuff
Hmm.
that lights me up. I'm exhausted sometimes when I'm in production mode. Again, there's that growth, and I try and always look at it like, is it fun? Because if it's not fun, why am I doing it? So I do spread myself thin, and it's something I'm working on. And in 2018, my plan is not to be like this again. But this is the stuff. I mean, like right now, I am a bit pressed for time, right? But this is fun.
No,
I
we
mean,
have plenty of time. We have at least 7 minutes, Nicole.
but this is
And
something
and we're
that.
just going to do a little magic here to stretch that 7 minutes to be the perfect amount of time.
So what I mean is that I have many things going on in my life, and I chose not to cancel this appointment because I just made that choice, and I knew it would be fun. So here we are having a conversation that's never been had before and will never be had again. And it's just perfect. And so I really love to sit in that perfection. And if I don't feel like something is going to be perfect or is perfect, I put an end to it. It's something that's been a process. I actually told somebody the other day, we were on a call and I was like, for an interview, and I said, you know what? Let's reschedule this. This isn't, and I've done that a few times now, and people are like, what? And I'm like, this just isn't a fit, and
Hmm.
it's nothing personal, and it can send you love, and you can love me, hate me, whatever you need to do. That's none of my business, but this isn't working right now. And it's something that I don't know, a lot of people say, well, it comes with age. Maybe, maybe, but I think more than anything, it comes with from awareness and embracing my intuition. And so the more in touch with and comfortable with and appreciative I am of my gifts, of intuition, of connectedness, the more I'm able to say, yeah, this is something I want to ride this wave. And then something to say, nope, I'm ready to walk back to the beach.
Mm. So you mentioned earlier that when you're hiring, you recently cleared a pattern. You had a belief that you expected something would go wrong with the hire. Tell us a bit about how that was getting in your way, and what it's been like since you cleared that.
Yeah. So as I was saying before, like to really attract the people that I want, um, what I recognized was I was doing part of that for
Hmm.
hiring, right? And so I would have
Mm.
people that seem great and they'd go through the interview and they'd go through the process and I'd train them and then something would always happen. And
Hmm. And you
I was
noticed
like,
that.
I noticed it. And actually I was in my mastermind and I was like, this has been going on for a long time. So obviously I'm attracting it. I'm doing something. One of my mastermind partners, after, my hot seat, he leans over and he put his hand on my shoulder and he goes, listen, Nicole, I just have something to tell you. It's not you. And I was like, it has to be me because I am the only variable that's the same here. He goes, listen, I've been doing this for a long time. He's considerably older than me and has been running business for a very long time. Um, he said, you are hiring people who don't have jobs. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. So it could be part, I mean, it has to be part me, but he was so right. And that like just blew my mind where I'm like, so it's not, I don't have to take the burden on of thinking it's all me because it's true. I'm hiring people who don't already have jobs. It's not like it's not like they're already working and the people love them and I'm trying to steal them away. I'm getting people to apply who can't, for whatever reason, don't have a job. So I was like, okay, well, that is very clarifying. And that was a step, I think, to take some of the burden off myself. And then, but I was like, okay, so that got better about who I wanted to attract and lessening the load that I put on myself. But I was hiring people and I was optimistic. So here's a thing that I see with clients a lot too. Like they're optimistic, but that's bullshit. I was optimistic about, okay, here's this great seeming person. I'm really optimistic, but being optimistic means that I believe internally that something is going to go wrong, that I'm
Mm.
optimistic because it's like, hopefully this time. And so when I recognized that, I was like, oh my gosh, the optimism is the problem. I need to have a
Mm.
knowing. And so I sat with that for a couple of days. I just really felt into it. I got very clear that being optimistic was the problem. And what
Mm.
did I want instead? How am I attracting my perfect clients? Because there's no optimism there. There's a faith, there's a knowing, there's like an ask from the universe where it's like, please just allow the people who are not going to love me up just to fall off. We can have these conversations about working together, but I'm not going to follow up with them, or even if I do, like, please let them just disappear. Like they can go find something else. And that's been what's happening. And so when I shifted to that with this, I wrote a new job posting. I had a
Hmm.
number of people that applied, and I was interviewing, or I was setting up interviews, and there were a number that seemed good, but they disappeared. They just, things happened, whatever. And it's like, perfect. I hired one person. She, within 24 hours, had applied of me posting it. I brought her on part time for a trial. She just is the right person. And so I just took that leap of faith. Like, and I keep having to check myself, even still, where I'll think, God, I hope this works. Nope, nope, not hoping. I know. And I just have to really appreciate her every day, and not from a place of, yes, I appreciate her, but, and that's what I have a tendency, that's what I've practiced for so many years doing. So now just recognizing when I have that experience, and I thank myself, okay, good. That's, fear. That's something that I've practiced for a long time, but it's not going to be that way this time. And I just am excited, and I'm going to allow her to have more responsibility, and I'm going to allow her to wow me. And I'm going to, I'm not going to keep expecting something to go wrong.
Well, and I think expectations are so powerful. I mean, I'm spacing out on the name of the movie, but there was a movie set in Los Angeles where there was a math teacher, and he was in the poorest part of Los Angeles where the students had the most crap math scores, but he believed in them. And then they aced all the tests, and the state went in and inspected it because they couldn't believe that all these poor kids could have got, A's. But because he set that expectation, and that was the intention he had, and he was enthusiastic and he helped them.
Yeah. I think it's easier for us to, at least for me, it's always because I used to work with troubled youth, and I was a foster parent, and so I understand that, and even with my clients, but it's always easier for me to do that for other people and hold that expectation for other people's success than it is for my own. And so even though I've always been able to do that, I love that you touch on that, and I think that really is what it is. We have to hold the expectation for ourselves that it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. I Google helped me find the name of the movie is Stand and Deliver. So. But I'll put that in the I'll put that in the show notes.
That's Sidney Poitier.
I don't no. I don't see his name, but I'll put it in the show notes for people who are curious. It was a great movie. I do remember watching it. Anyway, we've come to your point where you need to check on the cats and fly to your wonderful conference. So if people wanted to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I think the best way for them to do that would be going to businessbuildingrockstars.com. That'll take you to my private Facebook community, and I interact with people a lot there. It's a great community of business builders. You have to actually answer 3 questions to get in because, again, I'm only attracting my people. Like, I don't want to bring in people who are not a fit. So this is not like this isn't a promotional thing. It's no, I'm not going to ask you to hire me or anything like that. It's just a community that I'm creating for business builders who are like-minded, who are positive, who are excited, and looking for different kinds of support. And so again, it's businessbuildingrockstars.com.
Fabulous. Well, we'll put that in the show notes so it's easy for people to find. And I really appreciate this conversation and how you've shared your intuitive journey here.
Thank you. I really appreciate, the opportunity to be here with you, Michael. I've enjoyed speaking with you in the past, and excited to be here on the show and speaking with your listeners as well.